I began to wander the halls, trying to find where they were. Luckily, Sam made a lot of noise.
Fuck you!
Whoa! Who are you talking to like that? Sam? Oh, Jesus Christ, I do not want to know what's going on. I rushed towards the noise, stopping at an open door. Peering in, and I gasped as I saw the war room in disarray as everyone seemed to hug the walls, watching the chaos that was breaking in the middle of the room. Oh my God. I'm just... Why? Sam and Saero were clashing sword to spear, with Sam's face full of rage and Saero's expression void of any emotion.
Deep within, I can't go through it alone, and I won't leave you on your own. I stand before you now and promise you I am not afraid. I will fight and guide the way. We will rise again to glory then, soar into the sky. If you stop and see, then you just might believe.
What's up, guys? The name's Interruption, and welcome back to Seduce Me 2, the Demon War. So last we left off, Sam was being a sweetheart. Sam was a sweetheart. Definitely. Hoo-yah. Anyways, we came to the demon world and then instantly attacked Diana, but then calmed down because of us. Me. Whatever. Yeah. Okay, so let us continue. And I apologize if I end this video short. We'll see what happens, but anyways, let's just go. The walk to our room became a silent journey. Sam and I held hands, but for some reason, there were no words to say between us. This entire situation sat in my mind and festered, plaguing my thoughts and causing me to remain speechless. All of this seemed so unreal and hard to imagine, let alone believe. How was this possible? I felt Sam gently squeeze my hand, causing me to look over him. Was he feeling my anxiousness somehow?
Hey, you sure you're all right?
I stared at him a bit longer before replying. No, I'm not okay. I need your comfort. I need your hugs, Sam. I need your tight embraces and your nuzzles. I need all of that. I wasn't alright. All of this was a muddled mess and I couldn't help but worry. I had to have been obvious anyway for Sam to notice and ask. Sam frowned a bit and released my hand to wrap his arm around my shoulders.
We'll get back.
Will we? I couldn't deny the doubt that entered my mind and influenced my response, but Sam gave me a small shake, nodding.
We will.
Thank you for putting my hopes up. I eventually let out a sigh and nodded as well. He was right. I needed to shake this feeling out of my mind. Sam and I were guided through the hallways until we finally reached our room, which happened to be the ambassador room I had slept in before. It was good to know that I was going to a place I recognized. I sat on the bed and let out a sigh, feeling the worry of the entire situation sinking in, okay, fade out of my mind. I wasn't alone at least anymore, and Sam was willing to fight for me to return home. It was unexpected, but it was amazing to have Sam here. Sam looked all around the room, taking in the space.
Fancy room?
Yeah, apparently it's an open ambassador's room. They let me sleep here when I came.
That was how long ago?
Like, a day? Sam laughed and stuffed his hands into his pockets. What was so funny?
Oh, fuck. I forgot the time difference between this world and the human world.
What? What? We're all obvious of this, but... What? The character's just like... What? Okay, this is creepy. What does he mean by this? That's basically our character right now. My character. Yeah, even though we already know the secret. Yep. Wait. Time difference?
Yeah, time goes slower here and stuff. So, like, while you've been here a day, you've only been gone from the human world for 4 or 5 hours.
Wait. Huh? I was only gone for 4 or 5 hours? How was that possible? Then again, I was in another plane, so it was somewhat understandable. My brain just couldn't wrap around it, so I held my head, staring at the floor in shock. Sam laughed again and walked over to me, sitting by my side before he wrapped an arm around my shoulders in comfort.
At least we found you. If it weren't for Damien and Twyla, it would have taken us longer.
Aww. See? Precious is useful in a way. Precious is always useful. I need to hug the Precious. Precious! Sorry. I nodded, relieved regardless of how I was found. While I couldn't get back there was a beacon of hope now, which replaced my previous worry and concern. I leaned my head onto Sam's shoulder, feeling exhaustion hit me like a wave, but I didn't want to sleep just yet. I was with Sam, so I wished to stay up just a bit longer and be awake with him. Sam?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to say. I just wanted to be awake a while longer. I looked up at him and he turned his head to look down at me, patiently waiting for me to ask whatever he assumed I was going to ask. Help me stay awake. If I wanted to stay awake longer, then Sam needed to help me do that. Sam looked down at me and turned our bodies gently to face one another.
What do you want me to do?
Anything. I didn't want our reunion to end for the day with us going to bed. A kiss, a hug, a conversation. Anything was acceptable as long as I got to be awake that much longer. Sam gently lifted my chin and lowered his head to kiss me, allowing me the choice to take his lips with mine by stopping a mere centimeter away. I took it and melted into the kiss, wrapping my arms around him. Yay! My head and my heart became full of Sam, feeling his heartbeat against my chest, tasting his lips against my own. Memories flooded back of us holding one another, and I began to mentally thank God for letting us be together again. Sam wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me close but not taking us any further. The kiss was slow, intimate, and romantic in every form. That was yet another thing I loved about Sam. He knew when to take things slow with me, and knew when to not get deeper than that. Aw, see, yes, another reason to love this man. Just, yes. Hashtag Sam is the best. Okay. He respected me, loved me, and wanted to protect me with his entire being. I was blessed to have him as mine, and mine alone. As we pulled away at last, Sam let a smug grin paint his face.
Well, I guess one good thing came out of this. I get to kick my old man's ass.
You mean we get to kick your old man's ass? Yeah, because I'm gonna be fighting too. I want to beat him. I knew Sam hated his father, but was it really a good thing? In retrospect, yes. Morally, it was questionable. You really hate him, don't you? The smile on Sam's face slowly diminished into an angry expression. His eyes full of rage, but his mouth pressed into a fine line.
Yeah, I do.
Sam slowly stood back up and walked towards the fireplace, staring into it with his hands clenched to fists at his sides.
That bastard made me and my brothers miserable for years. We finally escaped, and then he grows the balls to try to steal the woman I love away from me.
Sam.
That bastard kills for fun. He burns kingdoms to the ground for not submitting to him, and murders hundreds just because he can. He has a fucking harem of people and replaces every one of them with prisoners of war by the handful.
I can see why you hate him that much, because I would too.
If he had gotten his hands on you, if he even touched you, I would have...
Aww. His fists tightened at his sides. I stared wide-eyed as the blood, little by little, began to drip through the crevices of his fingers. I stood and rushed over, laying myself across his back and pressing my forehead into the back of his neck. Sam, it's okay.
Is it?
I looked up as Sam turned around to face me. He didn't touch me. His hands were still wounded from his tight fists, but his expression dimmed a bit to a look of sadness.
I would have never forgiven myself if you fell into his hands.
I stared deep into Sam's gaze, seeing the fear behind them. I was scared as well, but thankful to be saved by Saero and Diana. Someone above was watching over me carefully, and I thanked God for that. I wrapped my arms around Sam's neck and leaned my head to his, pressing my forehead to his own. I'm safe now. Diana and Saero saved me from that.
Thank God for that.
Sam wrapped his arms around me, fists still closed, and pulled me to him tightly. I could see him biting his lip, almost piercing the skin, but maintaining some form of control. I frowned, but allowed silence to pass between us. We'll defeat the Demon Lord and go home soon. Sam nodded against my forehead, remaining quiet. We had to let this pass. We had to move on and mentally prepare ourselves for a war. Sam would get his anger quelled, and we would be able to return home at last. We had to. Sam and I eventually pulled away from each other, locking our gazes lovingly.
Come on. We can't stay up all night.
I know. Sam lifted his hand, which was now free of wounds and blood, and guided me to bed, crawling in after I settled in between the sheets. Sam and I embraced lovingly and let the darkness of the night take over, bringing us to a quiet slumber. The dark of sleep was usually a friend of mine, only showing me nightmares on the rarest of occasions. The nightmare of my dying sent shivers down my body as I recalled it, but I knew that it was only a dream. Would I have one like that again? I hoped not. Would I have no choice in the matter if another came? That was another story. I opened my eyes to find myself in the mouth of a cave that descended beneath the earth. Behind and above me was a bright light where I could see my friends and family. However, as I looked down into the darkness, I caught the sight of Sam walking away further into the cave. Sam? He didn't answer. Sam continued forward, losing himself in the dark. I instantly began to follow, forgetting about the light for a moment, before stopping and looking back. My family had a look of despair while my friends held each other, watching me with heartbroken faces. Was this some sort of message? Was I following Sam into a place my friends and family could not be in? Was this my future? I became torn. What was I going to do?
You are not worthy.
What? All of a sudden, the darkness became full of fire and the bare outline of Sam flashed before burning away in the light of the flames. He couldn't even let out a scream of pain as he was instantly burnt to ash. Sam!
Run! Run!
Diana's voice echoed through the air, but I was frozen in place, watching the flames rush at me to take me as well. If I ran back, my heart would be scarred forever with the memory of flames taking my love away. If I stayed, I would die with Sam. I stood in the middle, unsure of what to do. As the flames took me, I woke up in a hot sweat. Gah! Gripping the covers, I sat up, staring at the far wall before looking around. My heart was beating wildly as sweat ran down my cheeks and the sides of my head. Another nightmare. This time, however, Sam woke up with me.
Whoa! Hey, what's wrong?
Hello, nurse! I'm so sorry. Oh, I looked to Sam, seeing him not burnt or as ashes, but perfectly okay. I turned toward him and wrapped my arms around him tightly, now desperate not to let him go. Sam, despite being surprised, wrapped his arms around me and held me close. 2 nightmares, both leaving me and Sam engulfed in flames. I died in the first. He died in the second. What was I going to believe anymore? Sam rubbed my back gently and planted a kiss on my shoulder.
Hey, it's okay, all right? It was a stupid nightmare.
But you died.
You know I can handle anything that comes my way.
All right, then. Could he really? He was strong and he was fast, but was he powerful enough to withstand whatever had let loose those flames to swallow him whole? Oh, so there's no voice for this. I'm going to try my best impression. You are not worthy. I tried. What did the voice mean? How was Sam not worthy? What was he not worthy of? There were a million questions running through my mind, and none of them could be answered. At least, not at that moment. I simply rested my head on Sam's chest and let him pull us back down to the bed to sleep.
Whatever happens, I'll always be here. All right?
I nodded and closed my eyes, praying that I would not see the nightmare again. As fate was kind once more, I slept peacefully the remainder of the night. I slowly woke from my sleep, feeling the ache of the morning consume and rush through my body relentlessly in an attempt to keep me contained in bed. I didn't mind. I was pressed against a warm chest, one whose arms I adored to be in. The nightmare plagued my thoughts, but my heart fluttered in reality, knowing that what I was feeling in the physical world was what I was supposed to care about. Once again, hello, nurse. Can't even. Okay. I looked up at Sam's sleeping face, giggling at the sight of his messy bed hair. Aw, I would love to see him with messy hair right now. Guys who are sleeping with messy hair are just cute. And girls, too. Yeah, okay. Sam slowly woke from the sound of my laughter, blinking the sleep away to stare down at me.
Morning.
Morning. Morning. Whoops. I smiled and kissed Sam on the lips to help rouse him, only to end up being pulled into a tight and loving embrace with my head buried in his shoulder.
Did you sleep okay?
The second time, yeah. Sam nodded in understanding against my shoulder as I wrapped my arms around him. I felt so warm and safe within the confines of his embrace that the thoughts of the nightmare I had vanished from my mind. It would come back, but it was gone for now. Kiss him again! I pulled back a bit and kissed Sam once again, smiling happily and running my fingers along his back. Sam gently squeezed me and kissed me back, melting into the embrace between us. Morning kisses with Sam felt wonderful, and I didn't want to get up or pull away. I simply desired to relish in the feelings I had for Sam and let him completely take over my thoughts.
Hey.
Yeah?
Since we're in the demon world, do you think that maybe...
Oh, the demon marriage. Yeah, I have completely forgotten about that. I mean, I'm still up for it. I opened my eyes to look over his shoulder, trying to understand what he was insinuating. When it finally came to me, I held my breath in realization. The demon marriage?
You don't have to decide right now, but before we go back, maybe think about it.
I wasn't sure what to say. My mind danced across the idea of binding my soul to Sam. But at what cost? I'll think about it. Sam nodded in understanding, kissing my shoulder. I knew it was something Sam really wanted, but was it something I was willing to go through? Me, personally? Yes. Sam gently loosened his embrace and pulled away to look at me with a tired smile.
I don't want to get up yet.
Neither do I. Me and Sam are like connected. When I'm in bed and I have to get up, I'm like, no, I don't want to get up. I want to stay in bed longer. That's like me every single morning. That was me this morning too. But I had to wake up to babysit my brother because my mom was about to leave for work, and I was like, God damn it. I laughed, knowing this was how Sam operated in the morning. Same. He was definitely not a morning person. Same. So seeing him curl up to me and ask permission to stay in bed was still an endearing sight that reminded me how much I loved him. My heart warmed as I smiled and kissed his forehead. Then we don't have to. We can sleep a little longer if we want. Sam smiled and closed his eyes, pulling me against his chest with a hearty chuckle.
Good. We can go eat later.
Our peace was broken, unfortunately, by the sound of knocking at our door. Who decides to interrupt our fun time? God, I want to sleep. How could you? Sam and I let out a simultaneous groan. Our plan was ruined.
Go away!
That would be me.
Sam, we brought breakfast.
James, I love you, but I need sleep. Go now. I'll eat later.
We'll eat later!
Yeah.
Are you seriously going to argue with me?
Yes, we are.
Come on, it's like 9 a.m.
I don't care what you have to say, Irene. Get out. I want to sleep. Now I was getting upset. I wanted to stay in bed, feel Sam's arms around me for a little while longer. Was that so much to ask? Screw breakfast. We have 3 more hours until noon.
Oh my god, just get up already. We're burning daylight here.
No, Matthew! No! I want to sleep! Aw, Sam and I whined. Now irritated that our plans to sleep in became ultimately impossible. However, we both understood that today was a new day and we had to start preparing to take on the Demon Lord. So I slowly rose and sat up in bed, yawning as Sam begrudgingly followed suit. All right, come in. James and Iridessa, they're so cute. Can hear Madam hissing in the background. The door opened and in poured the Incubi brothers and their wives, carrying a plate of food each. Wow. Whoops. James and Iridessa held out their 2 extra plates for me and Sam.
Thanks, Dessa.
You're welcome, Sparky.
She calls him Sparky. No, that's a good nickname for him, though. That's yes. Thank you, James.
Of course.
James and Iridessa moved away from us as we both looked down at our plates. On it were fruit slices, bread, cheese, and some form of jerky I didn't recognize. It was probably safe, knowing that the others were eating it as well. Sam, however, lowered his plate to his lap and looked up at his brothers.
So, what's the plan?
Well, we should probably take the next couple of days to train properly. Since we're in Lilith Castle, we'll have access to training equipment.
Lilith Castle? This place has a name? The boys and Irene, Eric's wife, nodded in reply. I'm so sorry. Reading that line just makes me slightly jealous. Even though I love Sam dearly and he matches with Eric, but it's like, reading that just makes me dull. Sam stuffed a stick of jerky in his mouth and began to chew on it as Damien began to explain.
The first succubus, Lilith, was exiled here after being cast out of Eden by the heavens. She became a demon and soon began to breed more incubi and succubi than the world could control.
Wait, Lilith? As in Lilith from the Bible?
Yes. During her time here, she established a kingdom with this very castle at its heart.
It's a pretty castle indeed. I've never had the pleasure of coming here.
Meh, I'm not really a fan of it.
You're not a fan of fancy things, Matthew. Come on, man. Sam swallowed the bite of jerky he had in his mouth and licked his lips, joining the conversation.
Alright, so we train until we can't anymore.
Obviously, we'll need breaks in between, but we can't afford to let a day go by without intense training. We only have a week after all.
Yeah. Worry began to bubble back into my mind. Everyone was willing to step up and start training, but Eric was right. We only had a week to prepare for the Demon Lord. Would we be strong enough in time?
You fear too soon, child.
Where the fuck are you? How the fuck are you in my... Huh? I straightened up my back and looked around, hearing the voice from my dream echo through the air. Everyone else looked at me in curiosity, wondering why I spoke up.
Wait, what?
Did you say something?
No. It's nothing. Just go back to your talking now. Let me talk to this mysterious voice in my brain. What the fuck do you want? Okay. I looked around at everyone, seeing their confused faces. Did they not hear the voice?
They cannot hear me, child.
Jesus Christ. I shook my head, rubbing it gently with a nervous laugh. Sorry. I thought I missed something. The confusion in everyone's faces dissipated as everyone got back to the topic at hand, one I couldn't remember or focus on. My thoughts went back to the voice, wondering how it was speaking to me and how it knew what I was thinking.
I am closer than you imagine.
Most of us know what this is, but for people who don't know what this is and is just starting to watch this, it's just like... Anyway... What do you mean?
Be patient, child. The time for answers will come soon enough.
I want answers now, but I'll be patient. I grew more and more concerned and confused. What was the spirit talking about?
I am no mere spirit.
Then what the fuck are you? We already know, but still, what the fuck are you? Then what are you?
That I cannot tell you yet. When the time comes, you will know.
I would have loved to hear the bloopers for this dragon voice, but sadly there were none, and I am sad. Same for Shadow. It would have been awesome to hear it bloopers from him. This was mildly scary. A voice in my head was speaking to me, and I could only speak back in my thoughts without anyone knowing what was going on. I looked around to see everyone still speaking to each other, but I couldn't focus on what they were saying. All I could focus on was the voice in my head.
Answers will come when the time is right. For now, I will bid you farewell.
Do not leave me! Don't leave me! I need answers! Wait!
Whoa, wait, what?
Oops. I didn't realize I spoke aloud until everyone looked to me again. I looked to Damien, wondering if he heard everything going on in my head, but he seemed just as confused, if not more so, than the others.
You alright?
Tell them, just tell them. We're done. I sighed. They had to know what was going on. Well, I just heard this voice in my head.
Huh?
A voice in your head? But I didn't hear any other voice but yours.
Did it sound like anyone you know?
I shook my head, remembering the sound of it. It was deep and echoey, masking any relatable trace from it. For all I knew, it was some sort of illusionary creation of my own mind. Then again, if I created it, then Damien would have been able to hear it. I sighed and rubbed my head. It was some sort of deep voice, telling me to be patient and not to be afraid. It wouldn't tell me its name. I became worried about everyone thinking that I was crazy. I knew I wasn't, but I definitely sounded like someone who wasn't mentally there. Sam, however, wrapped an arm around me and hugged me to his side.
Well, whoever that voice is, it's right. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Okay, whatever you say.
I wouldn't be too sure about that just yet.
See, Diana knows what's up. Everyone in the room turned their heads to see Diana and Saero standing at the door. Diana stepped further into the room as Saero stood at attention, watching her.
You five have been gone during the 10 years of this war. You do not seriously believe that you will be ready for this in a mere week, do you?
Do not bring us down, Diana, please. Diana seemed firm and serious. I could understand why, but a part of me felt a bit angry that she shut down our pep talk. Sam glared at Diana.
And if we do?
Then it is a foolish mistake.
How so?
10 years of absence can be unkind to one's abilities.
To be fair, it has only been 2 years for us.
Regardless, when was the last time any of you actually fought in battle?
I can only think of Malik's. Silence consumed the room. She was right. However, we weren't willing to give up that easily. I stood and placed my plate on the bed behind me. Why does it matter? We're going to defeat the Demon Lord either way.
We will. But there is no reason to try and breed ideas of false hope that it will be easy. Too many lives have been lost in this war, with the hope that they'll all survive. It's better to be realistic.
I'd like to stay in my little fantasy world because what's going to happen later towards the end of this route is going to make me cry again. Okay? The tone of her voice echoed a heavy warning. No doubt she had seen hundreds or thousands of deaths in the war firsthand. But now was not the time to doubt ourselves. Sam stood up as well, standing at my side in defiance.
Fuck that. If you're right, then hope's the only thing we got.
Diana's silent now, but Sam is right. Saero stepped up to Diana's side, giving Sam a blank stare in return for his mistress.
Hope can only take you so far. Do you truly believe it will help you defeat the Demon Lord?
Can you guys shut up and leave? It was better when you guys weren't there. Okay? I felt Sam take my hand and nod, affirming his words. I smiled and squeezed his hand, agreeing. Saero and Diana stared at us, with Diana crossing her arms. Something was on Diana's mind as she stared at Sam just from looking in her eyes. What was it?
Can you say that with confidence?
I can. Want me to?
Not to derail the topic, but this is a waste of time. We should be preparing for war, not bickering about if we can or not.
Eric, on point. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. This is why you're bae. Okay? This is why you're my main bae right now. A moment of silence passed through the room as Diana stared at Sam sternly. However, she was distracted, distant from the conversation as if she was stalling time to have her thoughts wander. What was keeping her real attention?
Well, I'm not going to argue about this. Believe what you wish.
Sam and I waited and watched as Diana lowered her arms to her sides with a sigh.
However, we do have something to discuss.
What would the others teach me? Diana ran a hand through her hair, looking to the side as she listed off each leader and their skills.
Sergeant is a brute demon, bred from a nomadic tribe. He most likely teach you the ways of the brute demon, using your fists and speed to keep you alive. Shadow is, by definition, a shadow demon, so he'd probably teach you about dark magic, light manipulation, and assassination. Rabbit is a wild magic-based animal demon, using her animal-focused energy as her weapon. She'd probably teach you how to do the same. Fae? I am honestly not sure. I know they can change their size and use elemental magic as well, but to be honest, I do not know what they would teach you.
Alright, we're going with the most obvious choice for this. We are going to choose Sergeant. Last trainer for this last route. Matches Sam's personality perfectly, matches Sam perfectly. He is a brute demon. Going with Sergeant, since he is our last trainer. Diana nodded. Sergeant was the military commander, and I could tell he was strong just from looking at him. He was my best bet in learning how to defend myself. With that, Diana turned on her heel and left the room.
Finish eating. Afterwards, you should start training.
Excuse me, yawn. Everyone in the room nodded their affirmation as Diana and Saero left.
Well, it looks like we'll be busy for the next couple of days.
This'll be fun.
Yes.
Man, training's gonna suck.
It'll be worth it, though.
Damien's right.
As we all finished eating, everyone left to either train or do things on their own. I left to start my own work, determined to be prepared for what was to come. The Demon Lord wasn't going to win. I wouldn't let him. I chose to train with Sergeant. He seemed to be skilled in combat, and he was the commander of the main army, so I trusted him to train me, to be strong and dependable. I didn't want to be a silent observer in this war. I would pull my own weight. Sergeant led me outside of the castle onto an empty training ground. Footprints and wear showed that the space was well used, but the only ones in the area at the moment were Sergeant and myself. The air seemed fresh as the faint smell of flowers and fauna swept past my nose. However, I didn't get time to enjoy the atmosphere.
Human, I will not waste my breath hollering at you like a soldier, but I expect you to listen like one. Now stop sniffing the air and face me.
Okay, rude. I quickly nodded and turned around to face Sergeant. I pressed my hands to my sides, ready and at attention for my next order. Sergeant stared hard at me, making me slightly nervous. How was he going to train me? Sergeant began to slowly walk around my body, letting his eyes trail up and down my form in an analytical gaze. I stood still, not sure if he wanted me to follow along, and knowing he would command me to move if I needed to. He remained silent, walking in circles around me like a slowly encroaching vulture. I felt a twinge of irritation at his lack of action. I was supposed to be training. What are you doing? Sergeant let out a chuckle as he finally came around in front of me.
Weak, but still workable.
Excuse me? What? I was majorly confused. Was he calling me weak? I felt a small spark of anger bubble in my core as I glared at Sergeant. What is that supposed to mean? Sergeant smirked a bit as he crossed his arms over his chest in almost a prideful show of dominance.
That means you're weak, but still workable. You're not a fighter, and you're not strong enough to defend yourself.
The anger in my stomach boiled and soon I was gritting my teeth at Sergeant. Was this really happening? Why was he being an ass? 'Cause he's a brute demon, sweetie. What the hell? It's kind of like with Sam. When we first met Sam, he was a huge dick asshole to us. But he slowly warmed up, and now we're together. However, at my anger, Sergeant seemed to nod and almost smile a bit.
There it is. Took a bit.
What are you talking about?
Rage.
What? Rage? Was I supposed to be angry? I continued to glare at Sergeant, unsure of where he was going with this.
Rage is a form of raw energy, wild like fire and tamed with patience. If used properly, rage can be very deadly. Very few demons can harness it, but brute demons are the masters of rage.
I felt a little enlightened. Rage was also a form of energy? I felt a small spark in my core, remembering how angry I was with Sergeant, and mentally noted that what I felt could be tapped into rage energy instead of just felt as a regular emotion. Sergeant cracked his neck and let out a small sigh.
However, since you're a human, there's no guarantee that you can truly use your rage in battle. This is just a test to see what you can do.
Let me just take a moment. I envy people who can crack their neck like that, because I can't do that, and I'm pretty sure that hurts, so I'm just gonna be like, nah, not do it. So I envy you people who can crack your necks, like Sergeant. What if I can't harness it?
Then you're shit out of luck. I don't have the time or patience to train you like a regular soldier, human. Now is your only chance not to fuck it up.
I gulped silently. This was my only chance to try it. It definitely seemed like a challenge, but was I really up for it? Sergeant shook his head.
Humans are really easy to read. Don't doubt yourself just yet, human. You haven't even started.
Looking up at Sergeant, I could tell that he was being genuine. I still wasn't sure that I was even able to do what he expected me to do. What could rage energy do anyway? I guess I would have to wait and learn. Sergeant rolled his shoulders and held out his hand, pointing it at a training dummy that was set up in the middle of the field. As his hand hovered in the air, it began to slowly emanate a red aura. I stared wide-eyed as it began to grow in intensity.
Watch closely, human.
Soon a black orb formed right in front of his open palm, wrapped with dark red lightning that seemed to arc over its surface. The orb grew larger and larger with each second that passed. As I looked over at Sergeant, I noticed his eyes were glowing a dark gold. His expression was full of anger, but his body was opposing the emotion on his face with a calm and concentrated stance. Swallowed my spit down the wrong tube. Okay. When the orb finally reached the size of a basketball, Sergeant pulled his hand with the orb back behind his body and then thrust it forward, releasing the orb at his target. Like a lightning bolt, the orb flew forward and slammed into the training dummy, ripping it from the rod that was holding it up. However, Sergeant suddenly vanished from his spot and reappeared right in front of the dummy. What the? With a swift kick, Sergeant sent the dummy flying towards the surrounding forest. The unfortunate dummy slammed and nearly exploded against the base of a tree, breaking apart into pieces as it landed. I was shaking just from the sight. How did he... Sergeant landed on the ground and turned back to me, walking away from the result of his attack. He cracked his knuckles and rolled his head, stretching it as if he was just warming up. That was... cool! That was cool. That was really cool. Sergeant chuckled as he finally stopped walking. It was true, though. He was faster than I could catch and powerful enough to practically demolish the dummy. I was curious to see what he could do when he wasn't just training or showing off. Sergeant then pointed to a second dummy and ushered me forward.
Now, focus on your rage. You felt it already, but you need to rekindle it and capture it in your hand.
My hand? Sergeant nodded before reaching over and lifting my arm up, positioning it like how he did when he attacked the first dummy. It clicked. He wanted me to do the same thing he did. I looked at the back of my head, suddenly nervous. Would I be able to do the same thing he did? He was already trained in this and knew what to do. I was practically jumping into this with a life jacket. My nerves began to dance around as fear shook my core. Even still, was rage something I really wanted to try and use? It seemed like it was some sort of volatile power, dangerous and deadly if not controlled properly. More so, If I got used to my rage, would I become dependent on it? Was this something I really wanted to do? Yes, girl, yes! If Sergeant believed I could control it, then I had to believe him. He was the master of that kind of power, so he would know better than me. I focused on the back of my head, concentrated on trying to replicate Sergeant's attack. I tried imagining a black orb appearing before my palm and watching it grow, but nothing came in reality. I began to get frustrated.
Don't focus on the attack. Focus on your rage. Fuel it with reason and you will control it.
The burning flame in my gut began to flicker, reminding me of the anger I felt before. I quickly lashed onto it, tightening my stomach and focused on making it burn brighter. I had to fuel it somehow. Think of the human world, think of your fiancé, think of the demon lord. The best way to go about this is to think of the demon lord, just to fuel that anger, because that's what I would do. Think of the demon lord and just become incredibly pissed. So I'm going to do that. I found myself began to think about the demon lord. The bastard brought me here all for spite, and I was trapped here until we killed him. I was sick just from imagining his laughter, his dark voice in the air. The more he spoke, the more I wanted to end him with my own hands. I wanted to seal his fate myself and use my anger to show him who was stronger. Yes, please, this is me. I was forced to remain in this world, and I couldn't do anything about it until we met face to face. I wanted to go home, but my asshole, soon-to-be father-in-law trapped me here. Oh shit, wow, I forgot. Well, father-in-law is about to die by the hands of me and Sam. The more I thought of it, the more the flame grew within me grew. My body became warm and heat surged through my veins in response. Yes! Soon my vision became clouded in a ruby haze, as if I was looking at the world through foggy red goggles. However, the one thing I was able to focus on was the dummy ahead of me between my fingers, glowing in a strange black aura. Was this how brute demons saw their enemies? The energy in my body began to slowly weave into my hand, forming a baseball-sized orb that slowly became bigger and bigger with each breath I took. I could hear Sergeant smirk behind me in pride. How can you hear a smirk? Okay, whatever. As the energy in the orb became almost too large to hold, I felt my body completely tense up and strange winds began to pick up around my body. I quickly brought the orb back and roughly pushed it forward towards my target.
Now run at it!
At a shout, I quickly stepped forward. I began to hyper-focus onto the dummy as my arm slammed into its torso and bent it back over its stand. I felt enraged that I wasn't able to break it off, adding to the energy burning within my body. I wanted to kick the shit out of it. I wanted to make it bust open like a piñata. If I had to do it with my own foot, then I would do it over and over until it was completely decimated like how Sergeant dealt with his own training dummy. I suddenly came face to face with it as I rushed at it. I brought my leg back and slammed it into the dummy's head and ripping it from its torso. The head flew back a couple of feet and skidded across the ground before rolling to a stop by the foot of a tree. My fury became out of control. I found myself becoming livid at the results of my attack, causing me to pummel a flurry of punches into the remaining dummy torso, making it bounce off and slam itself into each impact. I'm so sorry if I destroyed anyone's ears, but I had to do it. My knuckles and fingers were aching from each impact as waves of pain rushed through them. I didn't give a damn, nor could I find any reason to. My mind became lost in my rage that I continued to take it out on my now-living victim.
Hey!
From behind me, a pair of large arms hooked themselves from my torso and yanked me back, locking their hands behind my head. I'm trying to imagine that. Anyway, and effectively holding my flailing and twitching arms in place. Still, the blood-red tint of the world didn't dull and my anger wasn't going away. I was pretty sure that I was foaming at the mouth, but my overwhelming fury overcame all of my senses.
Breathe, you little brute!
Wow, I've forgotten how to breathe. My instincts began to kick in, forcing me to take in hard and deep breaths. With each inhale, my body became racked with shivering lactic acid, and with each exhale, the flame within my core began to slowly die. After what seemed like minutes within Sergeant's arm lock, the red within my eyes vanished, and even the dribble around my lips seemed to have vanished, leaving me an aching mess of a being, causing me to slightly go limp in Sergeant's arms.
There you go. Geez, you've got a lot of energy for a human.
I slowly looked back at Sergeant as he released me and stretched one of my arms up, causing my shoulder to creak and stretch out the ache within it. I felt a bit embarrassed at what I had done, but as Sergeant stretched out my other arm, he laughed.
At least we can skip to teaching you how to control your rage.
Okay. How do I do that? I felt out of breath as my body became overwhelmed with a dull ache, probably from letting loose on the dummy. Sergeant gently tilted my head side to side to stretch my neck before running his knuckles over my back, working out the unknown knots in it. Whoa. I'd probably scream in pain like, ow, ow, okay, stop, please.
Just breathe. When you're pissed, you take a step back and breathe. It's the same thing when using rage.
It seemed so simple, but if it got me out of the state I was in, then it was good enough to agree with and not to an understanding.
Everything going fine out here?
Hi, Diana! Sergeant and I looked over to see Diana walking over to us from the castle door, crossing her arms and staring at us both.
We're good. We're just getting started.
That's good to hear. I'm on my way to the training block now to work with the troops and just wanted to stop by.
As Diana nodded and turned, Sergeant suddenly stepped away from me towards her.
Succubus!
Doubting my skills as a leader already, Commander?
I stared wide-eyed as Diana turned her head and looked at Sergeant with a stern and almost degrading gaze. What the hell? Where did that come from? Sergeant stared right back at her, but I could very faintly see his hand glow a soft layer of red before he closed his eyes and let it vanish with a breath.
No, I wasn't.
Then what is it?
Nothing.
Sergeant turned back to me and crossed his arms, obviously irritated at Diana, but somehow unwilling to fight her about whatever was on his mind. As Sergeant turned away from her, Diana shook her head and started to walk away.
You forget who trained the rebellion before you came around.
Ooh, she called you out. Diana finally left, disappearing into the forest. Sergeant, however, maintained a stone, agitated facial expression. That was uncalled for, but it put a little perspective on things. She trained with the rebellion before he came and took on the role of army commander. Sergeant shook his head.
Some training you did back then, Succubus.
Sergeant? Sergeant lifted his head to look at me before letting out a sigh.
What?
Are we going to continue? Are you alright? I want to ask, are you alright? He seemed a bit miffed, but the idea was crossed out of my mind when he scoffed and shook his head.
I'm fine. Let's just get back to training.
Okie dokie. Sir, yes, sir. We continued to train through the day, switching between controlling my rage and letting it loose on a training dummy, or even a tree. The longer I went at it, the easier it became to control myself and come out of a frenzied state of mind. By the end of training, I was able to do Sergeant's move, just without being able to knock the dummy off of its post. That was infuriating, but I had to remember that I wasn't going to master everything, nor was I strong enough to in the first place. I was a human and not a demon after all, let alone a brute demon. I was learning how to better defend myself. I walked into the room and let out a sigh. Today was tough, and I could tell it was only going to get much tougher later in the week. I felt my feet slide across the floor in exhaustion, not used to the strenuous work I had to do. I sat down on the bench in front of the fireplace, staring into the flames as I let relaxation finally hit my body. The warmth of the fire gave me a dull sense of calm, causing me to sigh and lean back against the bench.
You have done well, child.
Hi again? You were spying on me? Okay, whatever. Huh? You again?
Fear not. I come to observe you as you observe me.
I tilted my head, confused as to what the voice meant. I looked around and scoured the room before turning my gaze back to the fire. Within it, I could barely make out the outline, which caused me to freeze in my spot. What the hell? You're the fire?
I am a flame, but I am not the fire you gaze upon. I merely look through it to judge you and the one named Maurice.
It looks a little bit like cat eyes, kind of. I said kind of. The slits in the eyes, though, are like too skinny to go with that. But anyway, you're looking at me and Sam, I guess. You're judging us? Why? For what?
That will be known soon. When the time is right, the one destined to take my power will be tested.
Oh, okay. I stared into the fire, lost and confused. Why were we being judged? Was this some sort of trick by the Demon Lord? As I thought of that, the flame intensified slightly.
The Demon Lord, an evil being of this world. He is a curse plaguing this land.
See? Even this creature agrees. The Demon Lord needs to die. You hate the Demon Lord as well?
He is not worthy of life.
Yes.
But I care not enough to rise from the darkness to rid the world of him myself.
Wow. I wanted you see, all this war could have been prevented if you just came out and just killed him yourself. Why didn't you do that? Mysterious creature of whom I do not know. Ugh. What do you mean?
I have been generous with you, child. You must now be patient.
Before I could even think to protest, the eyes hidden within the flames vanished and the voice disappeared from my mind, as if it were part of a dream I had awoken from. I shook my head and rubbed my head, taking it in. Some sort of spirit or guardian was watching over us. Apparently, it seemed to be strong enough to defeat the Demon Lord himself. Was it possible? Even more so, it was going to test one of us to take its power? My mind instantly went to Sam. There was no reason for me to be the one to be tested, so it had to be him. How would he be tested, though? I shook my head. This was too confusing to think about right now. However, as I sat back and let my mind reorganize itself, I suddenly realized something. Where was Sam? I stood and walked to the door, opening it and peeking it out of the hall. Sam was nowhere in sight. What the? Sam was really late in coming back. From what we discussed, he should have been back, or at least on the way. However, the distance to their training area was not that far. I began to wander the halls, trying to find where they were. Luckily, Sam made a lot of noise.
Fuck you!
Whoa! Who are you talking to like that? Sam? Oh, Jesus Christ, I do not want to know what's going on. I rushed towards the noise, stopping at an open door. Peering in and aghast as I saw the war room in disarray as everyone seemed to hug the walls, watching the chaos that was breaking in the middle of the room. Oh my god. I'm just... Why? Sam and Saero were clashing sword to spear with Sam's face full of rage and Saero's expression void of any emotion.
You're too slow. Faster! You want me to go faster? Fine!
Right. Before my eyes, Sam and Saero became barely visible, shadows through the air. Their weapons clanged rapidly, almost like multiple bullets crashing at once, and as they arced toward one another. What is going on? The incubi and their wives moved toward the door to join me, still watching the fight.
Sam was about to leave for the night, but then that jerk-ass Saero called him a weak coward. Well, you know how Sam is. He did actually try to walk away, but then Saero said that the war was his fault, so that got this whole shitstorm started. They've been at it ever since.
Thank you for the information, Oren. Now, just excuse me while I go prepare myself to, stop Saero myself. The hell? I looked back to Saero and Sam, still unable to make either of them out as they clashed and fought. The shit Saero starts. I was liking this dude until this, and back in James' route, when he tried to make the boys guilty of starting the war. Like, come on, Saero, really? Really? Are you... I so badly want to hit you. My eyes locked on Diana, seeing her lean against the far wall with crossed arms. As I examined her, her eyes seemed to follow the fight almost masterfully. Why was she able to see what the hell was happening despite their lightning speed? Why in the 7 planes of hell was she just watching anyway? I'm sorry, I just had to point that out anyway. I just had to add that. Sam! Stop it!
Keep at it, Saero. Don't let him stop.
Diana, really? What the hell? I ran over to Diana, despite her not taking her eyes off of the fight. Why aren't we stopping this, Diana? Silence. Don't you give me the silent treatment. Oh. I'm not gonna attack Diana because I just want to wait and watch. I still wasn't understanding. Why was I not getting any answer? I turned my gaze to the fight, desperate to try and see what Diana wanted me to witness.
Are you that weak, Incubus? You haven't landed a blow on me once!
I swear to God. I swear to God.
Shut your fucking mouth!
What Sam said, please.
Like father, like son.
I'm about to shank you, Sarah. I'm about to come up there and personally shake you myself. I'm sorry, I needed a moment to recuperate myself because it's getting me angry right now. I didn't understand why Sarah was egging him on and insulting him, but Sam seemed up for the battle regardless of the fact, using the insults as inspirational rage. However, from the faint outline of Sam that I could see, I noticed something off about him. He was surrounded by a heavy green and red mixed aura. The more I watched, the more the aura seemed to build and take shape around Sam's body. I couldn't tell what it was, but it looked almost alive.
Enough!
At once, Sam and Saero slid to opposite sides of the open space, panting and gasping for air. Around Saero was a faint white light that was diminishing with each breath he took. Around Sam, however, was a clear view of a tense red and green aura. It seemed to flicker around Sam like flames, but it didn't seem to die even with the battle being over.
What the hell?
What is that?
Saero.
Diana pushed off of the wall and walked to Saero, wrapping an arm around him and around his and making him gasp at the gesture. He looked to her in shock as she turned to Sam with a hard gaze.
It would seem that we have much to do before the siege.
What are you talking about? Diana seemed to ignore my question as she turned and began to walk towards the room's exit with Saero in her arm. Sam, on the other hand, dropped to the floor and sat back against the wall, trying to calm down. Instinctively, I rushed over to him. Sam shut his eyes as he forced himself to take deep breaths. Each one seemed less labored than the last, but I could tell that he was working to calm his rage. Sam? Met with silence once again. The aura around Sam finally seemed to die down before Sam let out a heavy sigh and pressed his head back against the wall. I could tell that exhaustion was weighing on him heavily, so I simply sat beside him, waiting.
Sam, what is going on?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sam, you had a weird aura around you.
I said I don't know!
Sam closed his eyes and pressed his back against the wall, letting his head drop to his chest. He genuinely didn't seem to know what was going on, but I became concerned. Why was his aura so strange? My thoughts ran to the voice from the flame. Was this the start of whatever test he had in mind? Why was Diana and Saero involved, though? Sam finally opened his eyes and looked to me. His irises flashed gold at the sight of me, but quickly returned to emerald green as he let out a sigh. I think he seems okay, so I'm not gonna ask. I'm just gonna wait. I knew Sam well enough to not to pester him and to let him settle down. As he stared, he reached a hand up and gently ruffled my hair.
Sorry you had to see that.
That's okay. I wanted to shank him as well, but, you were taking care of that. I shook my head and held his hand, kissing his palm. As I did, Sam chuckled and stood, ushering me to stand along with him. Sam gently took my hand and walked to lead me out of the room.
Hey, hold on!
Shut up, Squirt.
Squirt, what the hell?
Matthew, hey, chill.
I'm so sorry, Matthew. I looked back to see Norman. Norrin and Damien holding Matthew back from pouncing at Sam, but I continued with Sam out of the room. As we walked down the hall, I looked to Sam, seeing the exhaustion in his eyes grow heavier and heavier. He had used a lot of energy. I wrapped my arm around him and guided him back to our room, sitting in bed and eventually flopping back onto it with me. As he let out a relaxed grunt, I kissed his cheek. Everything okay?
Yeah. Just exhausted. Man, fuck that guard.
Sam agrees with me. Saero's a huge dickbag right now. I smiled and hugged him, ushering him to wrap his arms around me and kiss my forehead.
Something really has been weird, though.
I agree. Both of us went silent as we became lost in thought. I knew Sam was trying to determine what happened, but I was concerned over what the voice in the flame said and how that reflected on Sam. The nightmare I had made a little more sense. But why was I involved? Sam and I went to bed that night, both unsure of what was going on and mildly fearful of what was happening. We couldn't speak about it without knowing all of the pieces. We both knew better than to take stabs in the back. My night was uneventful, but my morning wasn't the same. We're gonna find out what happens in the next episode. So, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more of my videos, then click subscribe. Anyways, see you guys in the next video. Bye!